Hi, I'm Tim Kilduff, and this is Business Matters, HCAM's original series focusing on local businesses here in Hopkinton, but also, and more importantly, the people who run and manage these businesses. Today I have with me Ted Twinney, that is, who is the co-founder and manager of Startline Brewing Company. Ted is an example of the quality and passion of our local businesses. Ted started really with an idea, and it's blossomed into something that's really exciting and beneficial to Hopkinton. So Ted, glad to have you back.
Thanks, Jim. Great to be back again.
We had a conversation, 2 years ago?
I think it's been about 2 years since we've had our first session together here on the show.
Well, maybe we can go back.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about the start, and then love to hear, get an update on where the business is now. And I want to spend a little time also talking to you about the market and your business. Very interesting.
The beer business?
Yeah, and the challenges that you have. And I'll share with you in a minute a little story about recognizing Startline Brewing in Boston just the other day. But
oh, great.
So where did you start? Let's talk about the start.
Sure. Well, and you know, I trust most people know our story, but I'll try to keep it brief. Very fortunate when I retired from my professional career in the over-the-counter drug industry, I decided that I wanted, as my retirement business, to open a craft brewery. And I did that with my brother-in-law, Jeffrey, and my wife's approval and support. And we've been on this journey ever since. Since 2015, we really got serious about it. And did all things required to finally open up in 2016. So we've been open a little over 3 years now here in town. That first year was really a boutique craft brewery. Mm-hmm. We were fortunate to know the owners of Waterfresh Farm at the time here in Hopkinton on a popular agricultural piece of property on 85 here just south of town, just about a mile from the Startline, hence Startline Brewing Company. And we kind of moved in there and became a company inside of the beautiful space that's there. What really intrigued us not only about the beautiful space was the opportunity to grow hops in a hydroponic greenhouse that sits behind the barn that you can see from 85 and that now houses our tap room. That was one of the great draws and appeals. Clearly Metro West and you know, it wasn't apparent, but as we did some research, the wonderful community of Hopkinton was just a perfect fit for all the things we were thinking we wanted at the time. So we opened up our brewery, had a great run of it. It became apparent in 6 months that we needed more seats. We needed more capacity. People wanted food. People wanted a patio. People wanted later hours, you know, all of these things. And so we kept a real brief and quick list, and we immediately started planning on version 2.0 in our first year of operating here in town. That led to us, as I said, kind of getting through a phase of planning the new and current version of Startline Brewing Company here in Hopkinton. We spent well over a year and a half with architectural plans, engineering plans. We had to put fire suppression into the building down there because the occupancy load now is higher than what's required by the state for fire suppression safety. So we engineered that, got all that work approved, went through some lengthy processes. We got our licenses approved for the expanded footprint and all of those type of things. Worked closely with the town and the building inspectors and so forth to kind of get everything buttoned up. And then we went on our journey and did it. We used a local general contractor, an architect here. Pulled everything together in July of 2019, after about a year and a half of all that work I just mentioned. We opened our expanded tap room, and our seating occupancy and total occupancy on property now is greatly expanded. We have almost 250 total occupancy on property, with some different rooms, some event spaces, a new kitchen, new bathrooms, later hours, a new bar. Twice the size of our brewing capacity. So we're really into a much larger operation now. And most importantly in all of that is that the support, you know, has just been amazing from the town. We filled this new space up now, and the hours we're open, every evening now, and all weekend long. So the response has been fantastic, and we're really feeling great about how things are going.
I'm sure you're getting support from the community, but what about people from outside of Hopkinton?
Sure. Well, interestingly, I'd say we're still drawing in a tremendous number of new folks who have heard about the brewery. The craft brewing industry is somewhat of a tourist attraction, somewhat of a tourism magnet. In addition, it's become habitual and kind of a hobby for folks, both in terms of assembling and connecting and talking about the day's affairs and so forth, but also to relax and play games and just enjoy themselves. It's a different environment than perhaps most of us grew up with in terms of pubs and bars and sports bars and that kind of thing. So, and also we're now serving great food. So we just simply have families coming in and enjoying some great food, and we have a wonderful selection of non-alcoholic beverages, so, coffees and teas and sodas and so forth. So, we just have all types of people coming in. What we find, though, as we talk to folks, because we usually have conversations with most of our customers, is some are on their way down to the Cape, coming over through Connecticut, or on their way up to New England and happen to be stopping off of 495 on their way up to any of the 3 states north of us, and stopping by and either picking up some beer or grabbing a meal on their way. And it's not unusual, because I know I'm in the industry, but when I'm out vacationing, I like to go to a brewery or two as a destination just to enjoy myself, learn, and get some beer for later in my vacation. So
in the development stages, did you ever think about the tourist traffic like that?
No, to be honest, we didn't. We originally, Jeff and I, and a few others we had input from, really thought that our beer would, that we'd have a nice tap room where people could come and try our products, but most of our business would be off-site, meaning at bars and at retail stores. And we do have a sizable off-site business at bars and at retail stores. But the big thing for us has been our investment and capitalization, if you will, on what's happening on property, and the amazing support and time people are spending with us, in our space.
Is it interesting? I forget who it was. I'd be happy to attribute this to them, but I can't remember at the moment. But we were having a discussion about Hopkins' location.
Yep.
And I don't think I've heard too many people talk about Hopkins being the center, the geographic center of the 3 largest cities in New England. Not Massachusetts, New England, obviously Boston, Worcester. People forget how big Worcester is, in Providence. Yeah. That location's got to be helpful. It
is, absolutely. People coming up, as I said, from Rhode Island and point south towards the north and east to west and vice versa. And let alone, there's plenty of people here in Metro West as well, right? So over 250,000 people within 15 miles of the brewery, and the town of Hopkinton, more importantly. So plenty of access to large populations of folks while we enjoy doing what we do here in Hopkinton.
So you mentioned the number of microbreweries in I was in Denver recently. My Lord.
Yeah.
Every other corner. But that's, how much you must think about that.
So again, there's about 7,000 craft breweries in the U.S., about 200 here in the state of Massachusetts. I kind of came on at about number 100 in the state. Mm-hmm. And a lot of folks kind of, and by the way, there's another 20% more breweries in planning right now that are going to open up in the next 18 months to 24 months. And we already know about those. I'm a little data heavy on this right now, just because we just met with the Brewers Guild in the state, and the Brewers Association came out and did a wonderful overview of the industry for us. So anyway, the long story short is we're not very concerned about the number of breweries. If you make good product and you're in a good location, and I think that you're really focused on your customers, and you have a good sized tap room right now, you're pretty well prepared for success. More important than that, I think everybody who's in business has to have a good product, right? And good customer service and know their market. It's no different in the beer world. What's I think not apparent to people, because they see this huge number of craft breweries and there's always news about craft breweries opening up. is that we're all tiny. I mean, the amount of beer that we make over the course of a year is you know, 1/10% of the total Massachusetts beer consumption. And you add us all up, all 200 of us, we're still only 20 to 25% of the volume, or excuse me, of the dollar volume, but maybe even 15% of just the actual pure volume. So there's, you know, while the numbers seem amazing, there's just it's a tremendously large market, and the consumer's telling us all, and myself and friends and family included, that they're looking for a different, you know, beer adventure, if you will. You know, a higher quality product, more craft beer, something that's tastier, something that's bolder, something that's maybe appeals to their styles that they like better. And they're moving away from just kind of the same thing all the time, more of the national beer scene into
Like light beers.
Light beers, yeah.
Like brand name
national
kind of thing.
brands,
Yep.
large, you know, national brands that have been around a long time.
Well, you know, I had an interesting experience the other day. I hope you'll find it interesting. Was invited to a luncheon meeting in the New Balance, the New Balance headquarters area of Brighton.
Yeah.
At a restaurant called the Rail Stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I take every opportunity I can to promote Hopkinton, and I was being made fun of until I had people at the table turn around and look at the list of beers that were being sold. And lo and behold, there was Start Line.
Right.
And it was very interesting because they immediately drove that back to Hopkinton.
Sure.
That connection is being made. But I don't think do people understand you're in Boston?
Well,
and what is now a prime location in an area that's booming?
No question, and thank you to the Rail Stop for supporting us. They reached out to us early on in our existence. We've been on there for a couple of years now, and they do very well with our beer, and we really enjoy being there. And we're very grateful as well of the well over 100 retailers and another 100 bars, so about 200 in total customers that we have out there. Yeah,
really?
We're from Worcester down to Boston. We're north in Chelmsford all the way down to just before you jump on the Cape in Wareham. We're even on the South Shore a little bit. We self-distribute. So, you know, each one of these situations, you know, people, most of the times it's our customers who've been out in their place where they like to enjoy craft beer. They talk to their proprietor in their town. We get a phone call and off we go and we deliver beer. And more often than not, it sells well and we stay there. And we just keep supporting the business and delivering as they need it. So we have a pretty sizable footprint on our website. There's a Find Us map. It's kind of interesting. You can expand that. You can see all the different places you can find our beer.
Really? Now, when in the initial stages, when you were thinking about this, did you think about distribution like that?
We did. That's kind of part of my background. We knew that we wanted to self-distribute ourselves and kind of represent our brand and educate the folks that are kind of our brand ambassadors when we're not around. That'd be a bartender or someone in the wine and spirit shops that are selling the craft beers, so they could talk a little bit about our brand. We knew that we could give them that information and support them maybe better than a large wholesaler. So, you know, the business was designed to have a large footprint. I think we're kind of filling in now the footprint. I don't think we'll be going north, south, east, or certainly not east, but further west than where we are right now. We're just in the state of Massachusetts, and that's kind of how we like it. Yeah.
If you move into New Hampshire, does that bring in a whole nother set of
It
regulations?
does. It's a whole nother set of licensing and wholesale relationships, distributor relationships. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's another long planning
and there's an
process.
association that's developed around your business.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sure. In terms of
the
Brewers Guild that
yeah,
we're in. Yeah.
yeah.
So there's a couple players. You know, we try to be involved as a business at the local level, not only say with the Hopkinton Chamber of Commerce and some of the subcommittees of that, and many of the other charitable organizations and different groups throughout town. But we also at the state level participate with the Mass Brewers Guild. And we, since the first day we opened, we joined them right away. That's a great collection of all the breweries in the state. We all help each other out. We all learn together. We all go through the same challenges together. We all work together to work on legislation that benefits the industry. and promotes the industry as well. So there's a couple craft beer events, one in Boston, one in Worcester each year that we participate in. So that's kind of an association that both does promotion and regulatory work as well as education and training for ourselves. We do that as well on the federal level or the national level with the Brewers Association out of Colorado. And they have a couple big conferences every year, again, similar promotion and training and participation and like-minded craft breweries. Yeah.
So but that then brings Hopkinton into that mix of,
Sure.
of really nationwide organizations,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
Well,
in fact, we'll be hosting the Brewers Guild in Hopkinton here in September.
Really?
And through that, we're now in the food business as well, so we're starting to work with the Massachusetts Restaurant Association.
Right.
And we have some focus groups of restaurateurs coming into our brewery to help the Restaurant Association. We're just their place. They chose to do some focus group work.
Wow.
But,
Wow.
So yeah, we're getting involved in in things beyond Hopkinton as well.
The marathon.
Yes.
Start
Yes.
line. There's some
Sure.
connection there, isn't there?
A little bit, yeah. I think on our first interview or discussion here, we talked a little bit how we arrived at that name and how long we worked hard to find a name, and it was right there in front of us, right? Start line, yeah. So, yeah, it's great how consumers and customers, people get it right away. The light turns on. Oh, Start line. That's why you're called that.
There's this little road race. It's going to take place in Hopkinton. It's going to start in Hopkinton the third Monday in April this year.
Again?
2020. How you plugged in? What are you doing?
Well, the marathon season for us is very meaningful because it's so meaningful to the community, right? And so we reflect that with the community. It really tees up in early March, and we start to see visitors coming to Hopkinton who also want to stop by the brewery. They're here either to observe the start line or where they're going to start their run, or they're bringing their family here because they're proud. Or they're doing a short run or a long run in preparation for the race. And so there's a number of, 6 to 7 weeks there where people are coming through, and we get visitation from that as well. People would love some things that have Hopkinton and the start line on it that, also can be worn either during the race or as a memento. So that, is a nice part of people visiting and commemorating the marathon as well. But on a much bigger level, this is our chance to give back to the community because the marathon's so important and so many people give to the marathon here as well. So, we're, as you know, as the sponsor of one of the sponsors of the 26.2 Foundation. We've done that for 3 years now, and we'll continue that this year and hopefully into the future. Each spring we make a beer that 100% of the proceeds of that beer go to the foundation. It's called Marathoner IPA. We launched that in mid-March, and it sells out in a couple of weeks. So look for that again in mid-March. We have a very, very, very special can coming this year. And it'll be something people want to keep, and I think it'll get a lot of press around it as well. So that's happening in late March. And we also have worked with our friends over at Western Nursery each year for the Marathon Spectacular, which is about the mile 1 marker of the marathon. And we've had an amazing day out there every year with live music and marathon viewing and pouring beer and food trucks and all of that. We've tried to do that a couple years. I think we're not going to be doing that again this year. The weather has just been too difficult for us to continue that. So right now we have some plans in place. A little too early for us to
talk about
them, but we're going to do something special for Marathon Day. You'll see us. It'll be a great way for the local community to celebrate Patriot Day and the marathon and carry on the festivities.
Well, that special can. Want to give us a little hint?
Sure. Well, so the first year we recognized a local runner. And the Marathoner IPA was dedicated to a gentleman who's involved in the running clubs here and who's kind of an everyman, journeyman runner here. Year 2, we decided to really shine a spotlight on the Marathon Center, the International Marathon Center, which is in planning here in town for development. And it's great because every time a customer reads about either the runner or the Marathon Center, in this case, we get to tell the story and share a little bit of news. So this year, I understand with your help and the foundation's help that that we could kind of echo a little bit of excitement about a new sculpture that's coming to town this spring for Bobby Gibbs. And she is historic. She's a leader. Her story is amazing. It's just fantastic that she's going to be recognized with a sculpture, and we're happy to commemorate her and all of her success and leadership in the marathon and running with a commemorative can called Marathoner IPA this March.
That really is exciting, and she deserves the recognition. First woman ever to run the Boston Marathon, and I think her place in history is sometimes lost. This is going to help put a light on that again. And interesting, the other day I got an inquiry from a high school student, a junior high school student in California, outside of Sacramento, who is taking on Bobby's story in submitting work to a national contest around the impact that Bobby's had in women's running.
Yeah.
So this story is far-reaching, like Startline is becoming far-reaching, and it adds to Hopkinton's marathon footprint.
No question.
Big time.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, to be able to walk into what is now a highly regarded restaurant in Boston and see your product made me proud.
Yeah, well, that's great.
And it's also an opportunity then to talk about Hopkinton.
Sure.
In the importance of this as a community. It's pretty unique,
Yeah.
and you've been able to blend yourself into that.
Well, it was evident to us, day one, how important the marathon season and all things marathon, the marathon footprint, as I've come to learn from you, is to this community. And frankly, the community is what makes it special, right? All the volunteer work, the amazing transformation of the community over time, the planning that goes literally year-round, day in and day out, for the success, from our first responders to the select boards to all the charity runners with all the bibs and the different charities that are involved, to all the support on race day. It's just it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Let alone the athletic feat of people running, right? Right. So the fact that it's, it happens every year, it automatically, it's getting larger. It's generational. It brings in new generations all the time. Is just so inspiring to us. And so anytime someone says, hey, we have some ideas for the marathon, or the marathon season, or supporting the marathon footprint, we're all ears, and we want to try to lean in and support that. Unfortunately, we just can't do it all, right? So almost anybody who's running for a number asks us for, to do a fundraiser at our place or something, and we try to accommodate a few here and there. I just, we're gonna continue to try to support the foundation and a few select fundraisers. We will transform our space this season into a bit more focus on the marathon and the sport and our sponsorship of the 26.2 Foundation. So I'd really encourage folks to come by in the month of March and April prior to the marathon to see what I'm talking about, because I think it'll be a step change from what we normally do, and then it'll return back to normal afterwards. But we want to be an extension and an enthusiastic supporter of all things Hopkinton and the marathon.
I think you're accomplishing that. You're doing it. You and your colleagues and your partners have done that from day one. But we're thankful for that. Yeah. But what we haven't covered is sort of the investment part in the changes that you've made in the facility.
Sure.
And I'd love for you to invite HCAM down to take a little tour through the facility and look at the investments that you made and
that would be great.
And the upgrades.
That would be terrific. We have a few pictures out there in social media and on the website, but that'd be, we'd open doors. We'd love to have webcam come down, maybe you as well, and maybe get some of it captured so that folks can see it on television. Yeah.
I guess we'll pick a date.
That's super. Let's do that.
Ted, thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure as always. I hope we do this again and we don't wait 2 more years. But
yeah, we won't. But the contribution that you and your partners are making to Hopkinton is appreciated, and it's helpful. So Thanks for taking the time this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks to you and everybody in Hopkinton and the community that's supporting our business.
And I also think we need to thank HCAM TV.
Of course.
Easy for us to say, but and they're a hardworking group, but we can talk about how good they are and the quality of their programming, and interviews with people like you help add to that quality. So thank you, and thank you, HCAM.
Yeah.
Every year, 30,000 elephants are killed by poachers. 8 million tons of plastic is dumped into the ocean, and 18 million acres of forest disappear. And with them, many of the remarkable animals that share our planet. These animals need our help. Their very survival depends on our ability to protect them. Zoos and aquariums are on the front lines of wildlife conservation and inspire environmental stewardship amongst the millions of families that visit every year. And know that zoos and aquariums that have earned the Humane Certified Seal of Approval from American Humane will not give up until every species has a fighting chance for survival. Find out more and help protect and preserve the amazing creatures that share our world.
My son had a drinking problem at college. I'm glad a friend suggested Al-Anon family groups. Is someone's drinking troubling you? You might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-AL-ANON or go to alanon.org.
Hey everybody, it's going to be just plain hot out there. So stay cool in your mode and keep your eyes on the road when you're traveling. Hey, celebrate this weekend a lot.
Every year, almost 40 children die of heat stroke after being forgotten in a vehicle. In 70-degree weather, it takes only minutes for the inside of a car to heat up like an oven. At 104 degrees, heat stroke begins, followed by loss of consciousness.
Yeah. Should go an hour and a half or so.
Leave without your child, live without them forever. Look before you lock, brought to you by Kids in Cars.